Hey everyone, this is Mark with Gamingtrend. We're at PAX Unplugged 2024. I'm here with Steve, and we're taking a look at Malediction, which is a new skirmish game. Some innovative things going on.
Yeah, we're trying to push the boundaries. Yeah. So as far as product design goes, we're really trying to disrupt and do something different, right? What you see here, the beautiful terrain and the models, these are STL files. You'll get a code in the box. So they actually come in the box.
Yeah.
What you get in the box is all the cards, the cardboard, the paper, everything you need to play. So it passes that Christmas morning test. You can actually play right out of the box. But if you just want to play it like a simple, board game at home, very, isolated, very basic, you can do that, no problem. But if you want to go to town, we give you all the tools. You can print to your heart's content. And the terrain is the thing that's really, that stands out. So many of these games, they're just focused on the models. You get both models and this crazy terrain.
Yeah. So one of the things I know, this is coming from the folks that do Loot Studio.
Yeah, down in Brazil, yep.
So very well known for their amazing miniatures.
It's the same creative team, so you can expect the same level of quality and attention to detail, for sure.
Yeah. I really love the idea, especially nowadays where games are getting more and more expensive and delivery times are getting longer and longer. Something like this where, you get the standees, you can play right away and then say, hey, I think I'm ready to get into making some of this big terrain.
For sure.
Then you can do that on your own time.
We figured it out. There were three key things we were looking at. We wanted to reduce the delivery time, right? Because people lose interest after 2 years, right?
Yeah.
They moved on. We wanted to be very eco-friendly. And you could just play the game. You don't need to go crazy on this. And we also want to make it affordable. And obviously, when you have to put all the investment into the molds up front, right? Yeah. It's crazy and it takes even longer. So those are kind of the three key things. And then by giving players the agency, they can, again, keep it as simple or as elaborate as they want, right?
So I think, I'm into 3D printing myself. So what I really like about games that allow you to do this, or even printing terrain for a different game,
right? Yeah,
part of it,
yeah.
Is the investment it gives you into the game. You're like, I've now created part of it, and it makes me want to play it more.
For sure.
I just made this cool thing. Now I want to play with it.
Yeah, you got to hit the table, right?
Yeah. So how does the game work? I see we got cards, we got miniatures. How does it work?
Yeah, so we're calling it miniatures card game. I mean, it's a branding thing, right? It's both equal parts. You look at a card and you see stats on there. You're going to see keywords on there. Obviously, it has a cost. So it plays like you would expect a TCG with your hand and your deck building.
Okay.
Customizing your deck. But once you put a card out, unlike a TCG where it's abstract and sits there, well, now the model hits the play area. Yeah, exactly. In living Technicolor, here it is, yeah. Right? And so now the model's out. You keep the card out, and you track its activation by exhausting and rotating the card. But now it moves and it interacts, and it's in 3D space.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the best of both worlds, where you get, you don't have your whole force. In a normal skirmish game, you're gonna have like your whole force, and everybody sees it. It's open information. This gives you a little bit more of that kind of randomness, uncertainty, building your deck. Right. You don't know if your full force is always going to be there, and you have to react accordingly, right? Yeah. Adjust your strategy.
Yeah, that makes the strategy really fun and reacting to changes. Really.
Correct. Which in a normal miniatures game, you wouldn't have that. You'd know known quantity.
Yeah, but assuming this is my awesome best guy, but always on the bottom of my deck, and now I've got to figure out what I'm going to do.
What I'm going to do now. Exactly.
Until it comes
the other thing, it's not collectible, right? It's a fixed, set of cards and units in it. So to get around that aspect of what normally would be a rarity, we instead have rank. And so each of the units and their cost, they have a rank that's either bronze, silver, or gold. And then, of course, your hero's ruby, super special, right? But the bronze cards you can include 3 copies of. They're more common, more simple, right? More basic. The silver ones, they're elite. They're a little more advanced. The unique ones, like this angel, you can only have 1, right? And so it kind of helps manage as well the power level. You can't just load your deck with 4 angels.
Right.
Can't do
your kind of rank and file troops you can have more of, and then you get up to the awesome one-off people.
Exactly.
That's cool. So let's talk about the terrain, because I noticed not only does it just look amazing, but looking at some of these cards, the terrain does stuff in this game.
It does, yeah. So we originally had some, really elaborate terrain, and it was actually just encumbering the players. It was more of a cognitive load. They just had to remember one more thing about how each thing interacted differently. And so instead, as part of your building your deck, you bring a terrain card with you. You must. Each player does. Okay. And so now you're going to bring that set of terrain, and we have a large, a medium, and a couple small. So you have some options of different things you can build. And as you come into the game during the setup portion, you're going to be alternating placement and building the board together with your opponent. And all of the terrain pieces that fit your aesthetic here are part of the same thing, right? So like here in front of us, we have these kind of ruins that do one thing. We have these kind of like weird magic-y, orby things that do different things, right?
Okay.
And so all of the terrain pieces that are the same function the same way. So if I'm on here, I'm going to benefit from that thing's effect of giving me boosting my spell power, or maybe it boosts my move, or maybe it does damage. There's different effects that it can do, but it's not like you have to memorize each unique piece, right?
It's like sets of pieces.
Exactly. And what's nice is it's very compelling as it's part of your deck building.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, okay, well, what am I doing? I have a swarmy fast group. Do I want to, do the movement booster? Or do I want to slow down my opponent and do the damage? Like, do I want detraction? I want, counter them. So
Speaking of those different factions, I know, we've got 2 here on the board, and they're very distinct. Tell me about, I think there's 4 factions available. What makes them different? What's kind of the
That's a great question.
for?
So the lore we developed with Tracy Hickman, very famous person in the industry. He did Dragonlance. He's very well known for his past work, and he created, I'd say, a very robust and distinctive dark fantasy setting. This is not just your run-of-the-mill dark fantasy. Mm-hmm. Each of the 4 factions really has their own, unique lore and background. So like this one here, we got kind of the Righteous Paladins. They're known as the Order of the Shattered Throne. And they are true and loyal and committed to each other. And you can see that it exudes in their armor, and that they're maybe a little more defensive and protecting in their gameplay. But they also hit hard, and they're not afraid to smite when they need to, right?
Lots of armor, big swords.
Exactly, you got it. The other one on the table we have, I kind of refer to them as techno wizards. That's the casual way I describe them. They're the conclave of the spheres. They experiment a lot. You see this guy that has some wacky tentacles. They're trying to, use their magic and leverage it in ways that maybe is a little more taboo. They also have some things that are more technologically driven. They have like a big robotic thing over there, and they have this magical kind of. It's almost like this ribbons and strands of this called Liastrum. I can see it on this card. It's almost like this guy's jumping around. He's putting down this blue Liastrum in order to move around and jump on. So again, there's more depth to that lore of what's going on. They're not just wizards, right? There's a lot more of what's going on. So that's the Conclave.
Okay.
You have 2 more factions. You have the Legion of the Fallen, which is undead, but again, it's not just skeletons and zombies. There's a lot more robust in how they summon and resurrect and manipulate with the magic. And then you have the Primal Blood. And Primal is your more tribal, more wild faction, more nature, more berserker kind of thing. So they're a little more aggro, a little bit more high octane adrenaline.
So this game's going to be on GameFound. You have 4 factions. These are separate boxes. You choose which faction you want to get
Correct.
to.
Yeah, so each box will come with everything one player needs to play.
Okay.
So if you showed up at the friend, you each got your own box. If you want to play just at home, you're going to need 2 boxes, so every player has their. And of course, if you want maximum variety, you got all 4 boxes. You got that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking. Like we'll get shots of all the stuff on the shelves, but all 4 factions, they're super distinct, and the miniatures are amazing. So
Glad you like them.
I know Loot is super well known for their great miniatures. But,
Yeah, they spared no expense on these 2. One thing I really like is we should talk about for a minute. So often with these games, you're trying to build your force. We have so many models. We have to slay the gray, right? We got a shelf of shame. What I like about this is by going with standees first, you get to play, you get to customize, you get to see what your strategy is like. What do I want to do?
Yeah.
And then once you figure it out, you built your deck, then you go print it, and then you paint them, right? Like once you've already got that down, and now you don't have this burden of so many things, right? Like it's this psychological burden that we have. We got to paint it. We got to.
I love the idea of really making your own, like making it your own force. You get to decide, and then also, that psychological aspect where you get a game that's full of plastic. Sometimes there's a feeling like, well, I can't play it until I have it all ready.
It's not finished yet.
Yeah.
Right?
For this, you can start playing right away, and maybe I just print my hero and I get that going.
Sure, because you're gonna exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's such a cool idea. So. How do people get this? When is it going to be available?
Great question. So we're looking to launch in January. January 20th is the date. See if we can hold that.
Okay.
The best laid plans, but that's what we're going for. That's on GameFound. It's live right now. It's the preview page. You can go see what's there. We've been spoiling some new cards. Basically the basic deck for each faction is available, and you can. There's a tab on the website, malediction.gg. There's a tab that kind of has an archive, and you can sift through and all the cards that are there. You can look at the miniatures too, see what's there. There's some alternate poses of different miniatures that you can see. So anyway, go check that out. You can, it essentially almost lets you kind of deck box. You see what's there, right? You can see what options are there.
Kind of plan ahead of time.
Exactly. So and we'll be spoiling more cards and more things as we lead up to the campaign. So
Okay, so January 20th, that's the plan. What's the delivery timeline? Are we looking at a year? Is this faster?
oh, much faster. What's fortunate, we're doing this. We are committed. We are making it right now. It is getting manufactured. It's more about trying to gauge the demand and make sure we have enough to cover. Also, for the first, I believe it's the first 2,000, there is what we're calling our limited edition that has something more pristine about it. There's, it's a little more custom done on the box and the packaging and some of that. So for those first 2,000, they will get a special version. So there's some incentive there. People excited to jump in on the ground floor, they will get that really cool.
Okay. Yeah, well, this looks amazing. I love the idea of putting more power in the players' hands on being able to produce the pieces that they want for their game. I think that's such a cool idea. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you check out the GameFound page right now. Follow the page. It's going to launch in January. And stay tuned to Gamingtrend. We're going to cover this game some more. Hopefully we can get some gameplay in. And stay tuned. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Take care.